Here we go. It's time for another sprint zone. And this one is for 10/10/2023. Looking at the group, and everybody is well ordered. And I must say, the spacing here is much better than in previous rides. A lot of riders still have a lot of bad habits where they just ride a lot closer than they need to. And you can see a little bit of this here when the rider in the blue on the left is encroaching on the rider in front, and it's not necessary. Regardless, I keep making my speech week after week, hopefully it will take, and that we will end up with more of a team type ride versus those trying to get the best draft possible as in a race situation. I'd like to thank Scott for providing his video and his telemetry, which you see on the screen. Power instantaneous is up top, 30-second power below. We got Scott's speed to the right of mine, both in the compass and in the display on the right. Might be a little busy, but I was playing with format and we'll just see how that goes. Anyway, we make the corner and there's the standard, not lethargy, but people starting to shake themselves out. But today it looks like it is Curtis up at the front, keeping people honest. And what I see here is people riding above their station. And we'll talk about that later because it causes a problem. Anyway, we've got Greg coming up behind me, his lovely wife next to him, and the FCC team kits. They look really good. I love that green. We see Rick riding next to Greg here, and Curtis and I are 2 up, and we're looking at our power, and it's reasonable. My 30-second power is 250, so the game is a fact a foot. But we're not throwing it down with any kind of attack, just trying to keep things honest, and everyone is well ordered. And this week, people have not strung it out as in previous weeks, and this could be because they want to be closer to the front, because the stringing out is really bad for people that get caught backwards, and that's not good. Looking at Scott's camera, we see the legendary JC in front of him, looking really smooth, and the ordering of the people is really nice. Spacing's good here. I am pleased. Looking downfield, we see Alyssa, a new rider to the TFR, been here for a couple of weeks, and already she is riding near the head of the pack. Interesting that a lot of people that are strong are way, way back there. And I'd like to encourage more people to come up to the front and be ready when it's go time. Looking rearward once again, and I'm looking at no one is coming forward, which it's okay. And finally, Greg, bold enough to come give Curtis and myself a little bit of a hand as things begin to string out. Greg pushing some good wattage up there, but my wattage has actually dropped 30-second wattage down to the 140s, partially because it's a slight descent, and of course I'm sitting in. Rearward, look at like Curtis there in the red, very strong on my wheel, and now everything is strung out. Interesting that further back, it's still in a 2x formation, and this means Scott can save a lot of wattage. And we're looking at my 30-second compared to his. I'm only pushing, maybe 3 or 4 watts more than him. In this case right now, less, and he's a bigger guy. So this basically means he's saving a lot of power. Greg looking strong, Curtis taking over, Rick coming through, and Greg is trying to force people that are riding above their station to get up there. And this can be a little bit annoying when you get riders that are riding up near the front looking to save themselves, but as soon as the pointy end of the stick is there, they are not willing to put themselves out there, and it kind of can cause a little bit of a log jam. Rotation starting to happen here, and Curtis and I were having a little chat. We're like, hey, let's get a rotation going. We've been probably pulling for close to a mile here along with Greg, and nothing else is happening. So we get a rider up front and the rotation begins. Everything's looking really good. And all of a sudden there's a gap here. So you look at the bottom, you got Alyssa comes through, and Michael opens up quite a bit of a gap. And unfortunately, and I always rail against this, to close that gap, people have to accelerate really hard. And at this point, I was boxed in. Curtis was to my left. the fast moving pace line, as you can see, 26 miles an hour versus my 21 to my right. And I could not jump in here. And this was horrible. So maybe I will not insist or try to get a rotation going, because unless you're willing to participate, I basically got hosed there and had to burn a lot of watches. Look at that now. I was close to 400, 500 watts there. My 30-second power is over 300 watts just to try to stay in contention, because the riders that were in the receding line didn't try to accelerate to keep together the group, and also the rider that let that huge gap open up and that quick acceleration. And this is why I rail against people opening up gaps and closing them quickly. If you want to open up a gap, I don't have too much of a problem with that, but you better close it slowly. And it better not be at high speed, because closing that slowly is going to be a problem. Looking rearward, looks like I have gapped a few people, and this is where I believe Greg got hosed, and it's kind of unfortunate. We've got JC there, and I switched cameras because this is a little gap where when my camera switches between film or whatever files, there's a little bit of a gap there, and I wanted to make certain the power was synced correctly. Back in the mix, and I'm finally here, back together, Grupo Compacto, except for those people that unfortunately didn't make the selection. Curtis looking pretty strong, and notably B-Train, just 2 riders in front of me, and riding really exceptionally well is Alyssa, riding with the strong men close to the pointy end of the stick, and this is what we like to see. And then there's a little bit of an acceleration, over 400 watts for me, over 600 watts for Scott, as things begin to hot up. Alyssa fades back, B-Train comes up, and this is really smart, and this is savvy on her part. She was up near the front, and she was able to sag back a little bit. First good shot of Justin here on that new bike. Looks like a Canyon, and that thing is clean and arrow. It looks like it almost disappears when it's directly behind the camera. Very, very nice. I might have to consider getting myself one of those Canyons. Nice bike. JC at the front, and Scott has gotten himself an excellent position there. Scott pushing 30-second power, 195. Not a lot of effort from him. My 30-second power looks like in the 170s. I'm working hard, but it's not that bad. And now B-Train coming through, going to the front, or at least going a little higher in the group to make certain that he is going to be in contention. Slowly coming up the outside. JC just happy to be out front. Just way out there, not looking for help. A cat once again has been thrown amongst the pigeons, and the group is strung out. Justin looking really good. Alyssa has sagged back in. Very nice ahead of Marcelo and Mark and some of the others. And for as young as she is, as unseasoned as she is, to do this well in the sprint zone should be noted by everyone. I'm looking for the day that Anna comes back from her hard training, because I think when she gets back, there's going to be a lot of contention. And I look for the day that Anna and Jamie and Alyssa are battling for the Women's Cup. That will be most exciting, assuming I am even there with the camera to be able to behold that when it unfolds. Justin once again looking strong. And look at that bike. Look at that. It just disappears underneath him. That thing must be saving him a ton of watts. And he looks extremely comfortable here. Looking around, staying in contention, not suffering at all. He looks extremely comfortable. JC still at the front, just going hard. And now it's go time. Mr. Lawyer goes hard. And I'm really happy to see that that is in Scott's camera. B-Train looking to see if others can come through. But so far, they are not able to. Mr. Lawyer has a good gap and a nice attack. Scott is trying to run him down, slowly but surely. People are falling apart. Wolfgang comes back, and I have Danny Evans right in front of me. And this is where, right there, he moved over a little bit, and that kind of stopped my momentum. Bam! And it was too late for me to bring people back. My 30-second power is still at 370, but it's hard. Wolfgang on my wheel, John on my wheel, Danny finally recovered to get back on my wheel, Justin back there. And you see Scott has reeled in Mr. Lawyer, and he is going hard. Scott's 30-second power. Actually, it's even less than mine. So had I made that junction, things might not still be so bad up there. And who's going for it? Scott's going for it. B-Train pulling everybody forward. And it looks like JC had a little extra. Looks like Curtis has given it up. And I sagged back through the group. Looking good. I got a good workout there. Looks like I finally catch Mr. Lawyer, who had gone hard. He's not looking to win these, but he's looking to stir up the pot. Otherwise, it's just kind of boring. So it looks like, and I can't really see, but I'm guessing it's JC and Byron at the top. Then it looks like Curtis, and they are not too far ahead of us. Yes, if there was a little more cooperation back there, and perhaps if I didn't have my momentum stalled, I would have been a little closer, but that was a good one. Burned a few matches there early on, trying to get some of the wheel suckers to come through and participate in the rotation. And this is why we practice the rotation. And we try not to basically hose the other riders. And unfortunately, there were a couple of errors that happened with gaps opening up and the receding line not trying to accelerate to keep us in contention. And you saw the speed differential. It was like a 6 mile an hour difference between the receding and the ascending line. And by the time I jumped over there, it was too late. Barely clawed myself back. If it had been a race, that would have been game over. So that is a lesson learned from me. Don't try to get the wheel suckers to come through, and to make note of who those people are that make that happen. Anyway, a good time was had by all. Nice to see Justin back in the fold on that new bike. And special thanks once again to Scott for his footage. Just a shout out to some folks that ain't here. That would be Mr. Nelson. Ben, we miss you. Can't wait for you to get back in the fold. Matthew Michaels, we have not seen you in a while. Need to get back here. I know you're training. Time to once again cement your legend. Anyway, peace out, everybody.